I think, I remember one of them. One of them is that book signing will be sometime tomorrow after questions. So it's suggested by our host, Peter Piasecki, that those who are going to buy books, buy them. But I can't sign what isn't purchased. I think that's the theory. And the other, give me here. Oh, San Francisco Bay Area. There are about 15 people who would wish to work with Mahatma Energy. And after I leave the stand at noon, would they converge where I sit and make plans? When you channel, you channel. I mean, there's no. And these levels are enormous. I should remind those who lovely people from Quebec, others from Canada, Kia, who's going to do the book in French in time, and that's quite an achievement. And a lovely couple from Mexico who may, in time, do the book for that area. It's certainly needed there. And if any of you speak Hungarian, you can do it for them. They need it. Well, that overwhelms me, that much dialogue. But there is a seminar February the 10th in Toronto, and there is the seminar in Montreal on the 17th, a week later. See how quickly we formulate these concepts? And that, if you're in that area, could be interesting. It's in 2 languages in Quebec, of course. One of them is Canadian or American or English. And the other is it's close to French. Yeah, it's very nearly French. And that's good fun. There should be 600 or 700 there. It's very emotional. It's very jolly. Some of you have been there. Some of you Americans went there and were baptized. Well, I think we've got all that out of the way. Get a sense of that fullness in the heart, if we might. It's very present with you. You really are a marvelous group, and much beyond the personality's expectation of what we could do here. My apologies to my personality's lack of trust. So the absolute principle, FPOE, which we'll not forget, will we? Feminine principle of existence was truly anchored, and we anchored it in Portugal. You've done further anchoring of this in a profound way beyond what I think you could imagine. And I wanted to see, I can feel it in your hearts, and we can see it much more clearly. For this is whom and what we are becoming. It doesn't leave a race of eunuchs. But there is a transference of chakras, which we will go into a little bit later today, the chakra systems are not ceased to be related. As we look at the coding, the DNA, what we've been working on and calling the heart chakra, the fourth and the fifth. The fourth and the fifth will become your first chakra in this new multidimensional matrix of bringing all 12 chakras, all 12 initiations, all 12 rays, and we anchor them within the physical body, for your astrals will, by the turn of the century, will cease, well, it'll take a little longer than that, I'm told, will cease to exist. We're looking at the next 35 years. This is the time of transformation. Some call that the 2012, which you call the 1212. The 1212 that many are going to run to is not a 1212. Oh, it do get confusing, don't it? For those that have touched into this light this weekend, truthfully will never be the same, because everything has shifted for you. There'll be few complaints, because what was isn't anymore. There's been a great confusion of light, and this will continue today and first part of tomorrow morning. Buy the tapes from Peter Pasecki knows who, and I imagine it's this lady who's doing them behind us here. I think I get a free set. If I'm very lucky. Look to the heart, please. You build a magnificent cosmic heart like the fireplace. Place the pillars, and the pillars should be wonderfully equal in light now. There should be no resistance to the feminine principle, or what we perceive as a dynamic masculine principle, always divine equality. And as we look at ourselves now as a group, we realize there is not one in this group that is greater than another. These perceptions are false, and they're designed to corrupt and to control. And this has everything to do with this planet, its abusive use of duality. And we will raise above all of that, and we are. Duality in everything. It's a marvelous school. It's taken so very long, a quarter of a million years, for those who promised. A quarter of a million years from the source perspective is not very long. This cosmic day is 4.3 billion years, so you would have 1,000 years as a third of a second, is it not? So everything really is in the now, when you look at it from that perspective. Well, 1,000 years went by, what do we do now? My back still aches. Don't sleep so good. When I was a boy, my eggs leaked all the time. My father would say, "Oh, God, it's your mother's side of the family." We never had those problems. So we're backing up to the legs, between the shoulder blades, all these comfort zones. Some of you have reactions within me. Oh, the emotional body. Males having to release this false hold on the lower will, and that sense of having to achieve. That's painful for the male. And to alter the ego and become ego-less is even more difficult in such a structured can of worms. To release and to become free is a very difficult task for all of us. And in order to have an earth become this, we ourselves must become, before we teach, before we do anything, we must ignite the light within ourselves. And that reflection is much more effective than the popcorn effect, which we philosophically speak of. Because in time, and it's not a very long time, it's happening now, all manifestations for Bayer are instantaneous. And he uses light, he doesn't have to use the Devic elementals, and he doesn't have to use magic. In fact, he wouldn't know how to use magic. But a reality has become instantaneous. You must then begin to realize that you are the creator of your reality. This power does not come in overnight. It takes a little time. We call time. That's our invention. Whatever I wish to bring in, because we have the balanced Mahatma now, it's instantaneous. Things with Mahatma now that we have can use this word in great truth, because we have the principle of a united God and Goddess. Source does not see male and female, and has been massively distorted on this little planet of sorrows. You the goodly company, there's some hats out there, and I love Mary's hats. Buy them and take them to the desert and remind yourself of this company that we are all members of. Very well-founded members. The greatness of who and what you are is beyond your imagination. I say this, and some of you, all of you in fact, haven't even a myopic glimpse of the totality of who and what you are. The reservation that you hold here, that you are less than, you came by honestly. All of us have been told that we are less than, that we are unworthy, that Jesus, God gave His only begotten Son. That's a tough trip for us. These traps of darkness and manipulation are so persuasive. I see it over and over and over again. In many of these incidents, my consciousness was there. So I know what was intended. I, meaning the greater I, the I am. We know what was intended and where the abuses set in. So the adored beings who came to do a simple assignment, their truths were so distorted from the beginning. And a story 80 to 150 years after it's first stated, then you have John writing Revelations when it could only have been John the Baptist. It could only have been the Baptist. It was, you have so, and then what he said has been distorted. So we are led to believe that we must believe the only truth that was ever written. The truth isn't what we taught. Our truths were very, very simple, and they were mostly to anchor light at a very dark time. The one you call Jesus, who has been with us today, acknowledges tearfully that what we did, we should not have done, because it has had such a profound effect on the psyche of man, to take him from the only source of sources. And we start to venerate anyone. And you will do it again, not this group. You'll see your sci-fi has been done wonderfully, brilliantly, and in some cases quite accurately. How soon certain beings come here, only you will know intuitively the good guys from the bad guys. Neither good nor evil, but watch what darkness does. It will follow darkness. Because they'll come in with the magical tricks. They will come and man again will say, look at what they're doing. He will say and soothe exactly what their beliefs are for a finite discipline. Encourage all that is not truth. The reason we mention this at all is that you will have to be very, very firm in who you are as the I am. You will notice the difference. You will. And there will be great energies coming in with light, hopefully not to do battle. This heart you build is magnificent. And know that this is the heart of hearts. If you realize that this one cosmic day, or the source, involves everything that you perceive as good and evil, for it is the only way that your God source can learn. Everything was paradise, there would be nothing said. There would be no polarity. There would be no growth. The idea of a Lucifer, a fallen angel, cannot be so. Even logic persuades us that Lucifer can't fall without free will. The angelic kingdom has no free will. How do you fall? When you're incapable of making a decision, you can't fall. The ones with free will are the chosen ones, and these are all of Homo sapien, humankind. The trap for the last 250,000 years has been limited to 2 or 3 helices, which are tied to your 3 lower chakras, however you look at that. Your geneticists would say there are 2. I have to include the solar plexus as man's greatest trap, particularly of limitation. So we step outside that now, and within the perfected oneness of your Godhead, the feminine principle which you absorbed so beautifully this morning, the dynamo, the no left, no right side anymore of our hemispheres, it's the oneness of creation that we adopt. It's the oneness of these 2 energies. They're not polarized any longer. They become one. The first chakra becomes something different, becomes 4th and 5th in this multidimensional matrix over the next 35 years. So there's no affinity one with the other. You're not moving your heart to your bum. Nothing like that. And these shifts are very, very rapid. One would argue that the first 3 chakras can't disappear. Well, they don't. But they have a totally different function. And for man, humankind, to incorporate all 12 rays, all 12 chakras, and initiations, for want of better terminology. In order to do, I repeat again, for many that think they've done their 6th initiation, you have to have experienced the 5th dimension. The opening is available, and it's only been available since Easter, when our group, 207, I guess, out of 242, touched in briefly into the 5th dimension. So it's available now, but it was not available before this time for those that are racing off with their initiations. Be realistic. This is why it's better, from our point of view, to advise you, do not limit yourself with any concept. They're concepts. They're stepping stones, and they're all to be moved beyond. Even what Brian says, everything will be moved beyond. And new information will come in. Some of you will be parlaying the new information as teachers. And in time there may very well be schools, or it'll be sorely needed on this planet of sorrows, master classes, post-mastery classes that enable you to teach accurately and with the energy to have profound effect on all of existence. The great beauty that you have entered into with massive courage is to come into the densest of all creation, the atomic body on this little planet. And it does take courage. But you're here, we're here. You might as well stay now, because it gets very exciting. It does get very exciting. This we can see quite clearly. So, some of you are thinking of moving on. Hang on for a little while. You don't want to leave and get it over the other side, like my beloved friend Janet McClure, and may wish you are here now. It's not do what you can to stay. You don't want to miss the final game. It's quite wonderful. And who wins? Finally, light does win. If you can imagine lesser civilizations dictating to us, well, I don't know, there's going to be a great big war, and I really don't know who's going to win. I think the Greys have probably got a good chance. And they built a spacecraft with that secret government. I don't know, there's a few parts missing. And then they're shooting down each other over Sedona, And that'd be the human story from day one. You're holding back something, so they take a MiG 99462 and try to shoot down a craft that's multidimensional. Have you watched? Have you watched these ships, the NASA, using fossil fuel at billions of dollars to the American government, meaning you? They're sending these archaic fossil fuel vehicles out into space, and in their own backyard, they're flying electromagnetically with no fuel, accelerate at huge speeds, no sound, no pollution, and you watch on television See, Mabel? Makes me feel proud. I never felt so good in my life. Did you? No. See? Good old America. We done it again. You've been sold such a bill of goods. Antiquated fossil fuel. Sending a guy out to get a weather report or to show that he can go out with this little backpack. Howdy, America. Howdy. Nice out here. Yeah, well, and you're all being suckered again. I have a great plan for you American voters, and that is, no matter what your government tells you, do the absolute opposite. There'd be no part barreling. There would be no right-wing, neo-fascist-y, born-again people telling you who to vote for. When they can't win with the right, with Reagan and Bush, then they get these same people to have lists of who they're going to vote for. Those who are pro-life and anti-life. But there's a lieutenant colonel have everybody wear a bazooka. But he's going to save the embryo in the child. I mean, such persuasive logic. So all he's got is bazooka. And the good folks in Virginia have a criminal who is not tested in politics, but he's certainly been tested as a thief. So maybe they're compatible, I would hope not. So when you watch your set, really, when it comes to your scheme, the medical scheme, there was a time when Harvard did a theory, and they were all going to follow the Canadians. So the Canadians is probably the finest in the world. And then 67% of the people at that time were going to go for the Canadian medical plan. I live all over the world, so these scheme of things don't matter to me except I observe them. And that seemed reasonable. There was some dialogue along those lines. And then slowly and insidiously, it became unworkable. You couldn't possibly have universal coverage. It was going to become too expensive. Oh my God, except for Switzerland, no country in the world spends more for less. How could it become more expensive? Well, I can't get rid of 12,000 insurance companies. They're all broke anyway. Well, 4 of them must be healthy. Oh, hell no. I came to the conclusion, watching American politics very, very closely, that if I still lived here, I would do the exact opposite to what you're told. I cannot believe the manipulation, the hype, the lies. And we've got to a position now where we collectively believe everything we read. Because we're a culture of believers. O.J.'s got his girlfriend in jail. This is a new woman. Well, we're getting off the track. I'm alerting you about minor scenarios that are going to become much more dominant in your life as the cabal, as the trilateralists who've been manipulating you now for 250,000 years run out of power, run out of gas, and light does it. That's the scenario. Many of your most honored people, many people that we have such great esteem for, do not work with light. But they're very practical in their answers and their deceit. Good luck. How much time do we have before we... There's 3 of you, I don't know who you are, but you're being worked on. You have been while I've been talking. Some of this digression has nothing to do with anything, except some of you get them out of the way. This is the true heart shape, isn't it? If you look at your thymus, someone must have been very wise. Breathe it in, gentle ones. We're going back into the thymus room. I gather those ones were worked on, whether you're familiar with it, while I was talking, but they wanted... Yeah, it's all right. If you knew what was going on, you may get in the way.